Welcome to CJ's Chat Box. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. For those of you that have watched the show, you know I usually interview one person or maybe a few musicians. But today we are going to do something totally different, and we're calling it Cocktails and Conversation. And what I have done is invited some of the people that I have interviewed for my show. I've asked them if they would please come up with 2 topics or 2 questions that we can put in the hat and draw one of the questions and then discuss it, have conversation over it. So we have no idea what those questions are. They could be deep, profound, getting beneath our skin, or they could be frivolous, they could be political. All I ask, whatever the question is, if you have an opinion, please express it or pass. But also, if indeed it does become somewhat controversial, we have agreed to disagree without being disagreeable, because we all live here in the village and we will see each other again. So we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to start to my right. If you will just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Craig Spradley. I'm in a band. I play keyboards for the Retrofits Band, who, by the way, are this Friday at Fedora's.
Oh my goodness,
And
he's
by the
doing
way,
it.
July the 4th will be right up here at the...
I didn't realize we were giving you free PR.
I'm taking the plug. Here we go.
Oh my
And
stars. Well
but by
then,
the time this shows, it'll be over anyway, probably. So.
hey, well, wait. This is going to be shown like in the fall,
Yeah,
so
forget it.
you can edit that. You can edit that. Anyway, you could just Craig with
So never mind.
with the Retrofits. And next,
I'm Sherry Showalter. I'm with Band X, and we are actually playing this Thursday, and you can edit that out too.
Okay.
Next Thursday and every other week. So, do
Yeah.
what you will.
yes.
Hi, I'm Joe Cameron. I'm not in a band, but I like to go to music.
He does often, and he does
And we're
often.
blessed here in Laguna Woods to have so many talented people.
Good.
I'm Laura Fremont, and I'm the dance person, so come
Yes.
see me in my classes. And that's the only plug I'm doing.
Good.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Sinclair. I'm also in a band, Rock of Ages, and we play a lot around here as well.
Oh my stars. Yes, we have a lot of musicians here, but the reason that they're here is they're all very creative, and some in different ways, which you'll see once we start asking the questions. So, as it's going to be, we have water here, so if you need a refill, we got it right up here. But I'm going to grab the first question, and then I'm going to pass it around so people can grab a question, read it, and we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Great.
Okay? Is everybody, where's the drum roll? Oh, yeah! Okay, oops, I got 2. I got 2. Here we go. First question of the day is, this is thought-provoking. Would you rather be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond? What are your thoughts on that? And would you think Laguna Woods is a big pond or a small one?
You'd have to ask yourself that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been both, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I've been both.
Which do you prefer?
And either one brought benefits as well as, not benefits. So being a dancer in the film industry in LA, I was a very small fish in a big pond, and yet part of the process, right? So I fit very well, and I was having a great life, and things worked. But then being a bigger fish in a small pond is so much more exciting, and the ego is very well gratified, but there's the other parameter is how far that extends. So I don't know. That's a good question.
My first thought was that I'd rather be a small fish in a big pond, more freedom, move around. Big fish in a small pond doesn't sound fun. It sounds like you might be sucking some mud or something.
Anybody else?
Good one.
Yeah, I agree with what Laura said about having been in both situations, but they both have benefits and drawbacks.
Yeah.
So, being a big fish in a small pond there's not much room. It seems like there's not much room in there,
Yeah.
So that's not always comfortable. And a small fish in a big pond is great if you're not ego-driven.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, if you look at it the way we were talking about so many musicians at this table, that this once may not have felt so small, and all of a sudden it's getting smaller and smaller. So it's hard to be a big fish.
Well,
in
I heard
small
a
pond.
musician once say, I'm not going to name names because everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
say that, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, but what about our reputation? What if this doesn't happen? Reputation. What are you worried about your reputation at this stage of your life?
Exactly.
If you haven't resolved that by now, then,
Yeah.
then you've got other issues. So.
Yeah.
Well, and in my case, I grew up in a small pond, became what, everybody thinks in a small pond. I became what I thought was a bigger fish, and I had to get out. Because there was just not enough elbow room, really, and you felt like there was no place to go. So I went to a big pond, and then I felt very small. But also, there's freedom in that because you're a little bit anonymous, and you get to kind of do what you want and
Live your life without a microscope.
and experiment a little bit more and find out who you are before you get too much criticism or too many eyes watching you. So both of those things have their pros and cons, like I think several of us have said. So.
How about you, Jeff?
I think I'd rather be a great white shark in either pond.
Well, that's
Maybe
good.
that's why I don't want to be a fish.
I don't know. But you know what's
I
interesting?
have bigger dreams.
In just hearing those of you that have, the ones that have had been in a bigger pond, and now in a smaller pond, that you benefit from both where you've been. That one had benefits, so did the other, and now you're in the one pond, so you're going to do the best you can, and you're making the best of it, and it sounds like all of you are enjoying what it is you're doing.
Right.
So, any other thoughts, or are we going?
I'm just fascinated by what Greg said with regard to, bands here in the village. They're so ego-driven. It's so, we want to be the best in the village. And I'm always telling band members, in my band as well, in other bands that I've been in, look, there's no record contract company looking to sign you. You're never going to be on America's Got Talent or anything like that. So just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's
The idea is we're all more or less retired anyway.
absolutely.
In our approach,
And
so.
just enjoy it. Have a
Yeah,
good
exactly.
time.
So this is not the time to worry about your contract.
And there's no,
EMI.
I mean, you shouldn't have competition. I've tried to establish a culture in the music scene here where, if artists come to our shows or whatever, that I always try, if I see them, I try to introduce them. Because I think it's important that we pat each other on the back.
Exactly.
Because that's really the only compensation that these bands get.
Right.
I mean, I know we make, $300, $200, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But it's the pat on the back and the appreciation of you offering your talent to the village is what I think a lot of the musicians really, really like.
So basically, you're saying you'd rather be a medium fish in a medium pond and share the
And not a
joy.
fish.
It's like,
Not a fish.
it's all about love, guys.
Yes.
It's all about. It's
Share
got to
the
get about
joy.
love. The world is so freaking crazy right now.
Yeah.
It's got to be about love.
yeah,
We got to
that's
start
true.
loving each other.
Exactly, and I tell people the exact same thing. At this point in my music career and everybody else's, if we haven't been there and done that by now, we're not.
Yeah.
This is fun now. This is
Yes.
a hobby, and I love to go see other bands and be supportive of them too. And I so appreciate it when they come to see my band.
But I have to add, because I'm not in the bands, I'm like sitting in the back with your audiences,
Right.
and honestly, the joy that you guys, all of your bands are experiencing is pretty massive. Like the energy in the Laguna Woods residencies, I mean, they're so there for each and every one of you. It's like kind of crazy.
To Jeff's point, none of us are trying to be rock stars anymore, and if we are,
Well,
Yeah.
something serious is wrong there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Record companies aren't going to put a bunch of money behind old seniors. It's just ain't going to happen.
I always felt like being retired finally, and everything else now is done with. I'm single now, and so now I can devote what I've always wanted to do, spend all my time doing, which is play the piano or play the guitar
And have
make
fun.
music and have fun.
Yeah.
And just get in a groove and just play.
Absolutely.
Now I can do that all I want.
Actually, to throw in a thought is that mindset of just enjoying the moment, putting out the good vibration, and making that scene right there, everything. That's probably the best way to parlay it. Like rather than thinking, is there some scout up back there like checking us out or something?
okay
or,
if you're
I gotta be
23,
targeted. Or you get mad if somebody misses a chord or something. Then the whole energy is different.
Right.
Where the beauty and the potential is more if you're just there living the moment, making it a nice experience right there.
Right.
I think it's important that, and Jeff says he does it with his band and others, but it's important that when one band member starts taking it too seriously and stop having fun, somebody needs to grab them by the collar and say, we're here to have fun. Stop doing this. It's not so serious. You're not making big bucks from this.
Right.
But it just sometimes you need to have somebody call you on it. And usually it has to be somebody in your band, which
Yeah.
people are gonna, not feel comfortable, but it's like, you gotta be upfront about that, because nobody's gonna have a good time otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Woo! You get to pick the next one, dear. Do you need your glasses to read it?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Ooh, it's a goodie.
Apparently so.
CJ, there.
I have a-
I've had a little wire crossed. I thought it was all vets that were going to get together.
Oh, you did?
So I'm a little. Yeah, my question might be off a little.
That's
bit.
okay. We have
Yeah,
That's
thoughts.
all good.
Yeah.
That's all
People.
good.
We
Who
have
knows?
thoughts.
Maybe we're all
It's
vets
interesting.
here.
What?
It's interesting. Let's say
Okay.
a person that people say that you look like.
What? Say
Oh,
read
that's
again.
good.
A person that people say that you look like.
Oh, God.
Oh, like a
A
famous person or
Yeah,
anything?
Yeah.
obviously,
Look like your dog.
obviously,
That sort of person.
famous type person, That's the way this.
I've been walking through Stater Brothers and on 2 different occasions had little kids come up and say, "Hey, are you Hulk Hogan?"
Oh, yeah,
Yes, I am, man. Get out of stance. Stay cool. Get off the road.
Well, that's a cool one to look like.
Oh, that is good. I used to be, what's the cook that said something bad?
Oh,
From the
From the South.
Louisiana, or the South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paula Dean.
Paula Dean.
Paula Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Others had
She
said,
looked like
and then
Paula Dean.
also others had said Helen Mirren.
Oh,
I can see
That's
that.
a
You're
nice
so much
one.
prettier than she is.
Oh, well, thank you
Helen
so
Mirren
much.
in there. I can see
Yeah,
that.
and it's, I'm sure it's this beautiful
Sure.
nose that I have.
Could be.
Anyway.
I used to get John Travolta sometimes.
I see that.
And Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's-
Now it's more Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Oh, right, very
I see that. I
much.
see that.
The
Yeah.
3 is
Oh,
good.
wow.
3 is good.
That's good. How about you, Laura?
Good
Anything?
picks.
They used to come up when I was younger. They used to come up to me and say, I look like, and I am so sorry, I can't remember this actress's name, but she was from the 40s and the 50s. And
Yeah.
she was, somebody that even my ex-husband thought I looked like her, but I can't remember her
She
name.
was
so-
probably very beautiful.
Oh, well,
Oh, yes. Well, the 40s were classics. And
Yeah,
that-
okay.
You have a
Yeah,
classic look.
there you go.
I have
There.
Olivia Newton-John for you. You've had to.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have never gotten that, but
No
I'll tell
way.
you what I have
No
gotten.
way.
When I was like a teenager, people said I looked like Twiggy.
Oh, my.
cute.
When I was in my 20s, maybe late 20s, early 30s, I went into a deli one time, and it was one of those ones where you kind of go down the line to get make your sandwich, and then you get to
Yeah.
the end and you pay. So I'm standing in line, and I get to the end to pay, and the guy at the cashier just looks up and he goes, "What are you doing here?"
Awesome.
I'm getting a sandwich.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
goes, "No, I mean, how come you're just walking around?" And I had my hair short at the time, and it was I have kind of naturally curly hair.
Yeah.
He thought I was Meg Ryan. And several
Really?
that. I
Oh,
see that.
now
I
I
see
see Meg
Several
Ryan.
people had told me that before, and she was filming a movie in the area, so
Oh.
he thought I was her.
Oh, wow.
That's
And
cool.
It cracked me up. The poor guy, he just stood there, like, staring.
Like, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Concerned for you.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, what are you doing, walking around the
Yeah,
planet?
yeah.
Yeah.
But she
That's
does
cool.
look
That's
more
actually
like,
really cool.
like,
Olivia?
no,
No. Meg Ryan?
Meg Ryan.
I get Meg
I
Ryan.
think
Well,
Meg
yeah,
Ryan
I get
more.
Meg Ryan.
I had my hair short,
Sure.
and she
Yeah.
had that curly hair thing
Right.
going.
Yeah.
And she had Tom Hanks hanging on her.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right.
So anyways,
Anybody think you look like anybody?
I don't think so.
come on.
Okay.
I think somebody once told me I look like Ed Burns, the actor.
Oh, I love Ed Burns. Not the Kooky. Kooky,
You know,
Lend Me Your Home. The other one.
Ed Burns from, he was in Private Ryan.
Yeah,
One of
that's the
guys.
other one.
Ed Burns.
Well, there
And the
was.
Brothers movie, what did he do with that back in the 90s? Anyway, he's
Yeah.
ed a lot of work.
Yeah.
Somebody said that once.
He
and,
is. Yeah, I know that Ed Burns, but I was thinking because I'm so old. Ed, Lend Me Your Comb, Kooky Burns.
Oh, not Kooky Burns.
No, that's the one I thought, but no,
Yeah,
Ed Burns.
Ed Burns, the actor.
Yeah. Very good. Alrighty. Are we ready? You get to draw the next one.
Oh, boy.
I love this. It's all
Oh,
different.
I got through
It
it.
is different.
Okay, let's see what this says. What value in your childhood has served you all your life? What
Ooh.
value in your childhood has served you
Good
all
question.
your life?
That's a good one.
Oh.
Uh-oh. That's a thinker.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Well, so I'll never forget my parents just saying, honesty is the best policy. Now, doesn't, sometimes being honest it depends on how that message is delivered, right?
Yeah.
So I try to
Yeah.
always be kind and gentle and say, preface things sometimes by saying, I love you, I care about you, you're my friend, so I'm going to say this, and I know it might be hard to hear, but I wouldn't be a good friend or a good person to, with you if I wasn't telling you honestly.
She just had this conversation with me outside before.
It's a good thing.
She went to our last show. She's like,
Speak the truth in love. And yes, that is, and it is, if you're a true friend, you need to tell them they got broccoli on their teeth. There is no doubt about that, because they will thank you later. Or your zipper's down.
Yeah.
Either one. You want somebody to tell you.
Well, you look at him and you go,
A little of this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that. Oh.
Okay, it's your turn, Craig.
I don't know. I remember my pop always said, when he was he was a frugal guy, and he would take, if we had to fix something around the house, I'd be hanging around, he'd take a bent nail. He was good at taking a bent nail and straightening it out so we could use it. I don't know if that's a sidebar, but he always said one thing to me. I always remember, he said, son, you have to look at the big picture. In other words, keep whatever your vision is, try to encompass the whole story and not get stuck
narrowly
in the weeds. Yeah, well said. So that did stick with me, and it helped me when I became a general contractor back east. That served me perfectly because that's really the nature of it. So that always stuck with me.
That's important.
And in the band too, you don't worry about you mess that chord up.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
look at the big picture.
God, we stink. Oh, we stink tonight. Okay, that's right. But tomorrow night will smell good. So
There you go.
don't sweat it.
Anybody? My thing was, the one thing that I'm really thankful for. I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, but my faith for sure has stood me all these times. The other thing that I didn't know it was called that, delaying gratification, is because they don't do that now. Everything is instant. And so I'm on the wrong page all the time. But that was only because we were poor. So you ate the frosting last. I mean, you delayed your gratification.
Right.
It was a simple
That's right,
thing.
about the frosting.
Yeah. I watched a guy one time at a Bible study. He was having breakfast, and I watched him pushing his toast into his egg and everything like that. And of course, he'd eaten all the whites, and the last thing he had, I said, "What's your favorite part, Stu?" And he said, "The yolk," which was, of course, the last thing he did when he poked it. But again, he was from the Midwest, and he had that same value. It's delayed gratification.
Nice.
Anyway.
I think I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so I was never like the center of attention, or anything that happened, it was all spread across, which is probably good to understand. You can't get too big of a head when people keep you in check, but the family bonding of both supporting each other and helping each other, but also there's times when you just don't get your way, and that's the way it is, and move on and suck it up, and don't let it slow you down.
Yeah. Well, that's a good balance for sure.
Yeah.
And with a big family, you get, somebody will lift you up, and then everybody else will knock you down. So that you kind of stay balanced that way too.
Yeah, we weren't well off. I didn't know that we weren't well off, but it was kind of like, it's nice that we were in a house of 7 kids, so everything was a shared experience as well, which is nice. I guess I'd throw that in too. If you can share an experience with somebody, that makes it so much richer,
Oh,
True.
that just makes me think of a lady I used to work with quite a few years ago now, and when we worked together and we experienced some really funny times. And so when we were together at another function, I would look at her and I would say, and she would roar. She just, and nobody understood because it was our own secret language. Right. And so when she died, I thought, oh my God, I'll never be able to. So I told my youngest sister that. And so when I went my first trip abroad, she said, I'm going to go with because I want to share, you just have something that we can share later. So it's important that you have someone to share those things, because those memories are, if they're just yours, you have nobody to share that with.
Well, you start walking around laughing to yourself, and they take you away.
They put me in cuffs, probably.
You're done.
Anybody else? How about you guys?
Yeah, just I think it's super important. I don't know that I really learned this from any family. I had kind of a rough childhood growing up, but I just think it's very important to be honest with people. Honesty is really critical, because you try the lying game, and then before you know it, you forget what you lied about.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
No, you don't have to remember it.
Tell the
And when
truth
our
and you
age,
don't
we
have
don't
to-
want to.
And we don't want to remember
We
anything.
can, and we won't remember.
So I
But
really,
yeah.
I really appreciate honesty, even if it is brutal, and you have
Sure.
to tell somebody that
Yeah.
you mispronounced a word or something. My kids always got on me because I wrote a book when I was 35 or something, and based on writing that book, all of the grammar correction that I had to learn,
Yes.
when I hear them say "anyways," I'm like,
Ooh!
it's any way. There's not an S,
That's my pet peeve.
It's just oh
That,
my
I
God.
know that my mother was an English teacher.
drives
so
me
you
nuts.
couldn't get away with anything if you said ain't.
Right, right.
Get out.
And,
Sit
and
anywhere
I'm
from the
always,
table.
because I do public speak quite a bit, and I'm always asking, like, if I say something that's incorrect, please come tell me.
Yes.
Because I can correct it the next time I'm speaking.
You don't want to keep the habit of it.
Exactly, yeah.
But I was in a therapy session one time, pouring my heart out.
One time, CJ?
No, I had years. But this was a new therapist. And I'm telling and pouring my heart out and everything. And so when I stopped, he said, I have to really compliment you. He said, you said it a few times, but you never once said anyways. You said anyway.
Oh.
And I thought, I'm pouring my heart out and you're counting my anyways? I'm like, oh my
But
stars.
also spending a
But
good
ever
penny.
since that time, anybody that says anyways, my heart.
I know.
My,
It's just
my
like-
ears
it's like
is
nails on a chalkboard.
You're educated, for God's
God,
sake.
you guys are so
Stop.
funny. Well, my father said all the time, every day, tell someone you love them.
Ooh.
And for a long time, I thought, oh, come on, Dad, really? I'm like, I don't love everybody. But then, after a while, certainly since he passed, I thought, you know what? I really probably should tell somebody I love them. And when you do that, regardless if you're madly in love or friendly in love or whatever, but you start trying to look for the qualities in another person, right? And so it kind of opens up your perspective. And I thought, and he, every day of his life, told someone he loved them. And also, as time passes, you have less time to have those opportunities.
Yes.
Right.
So
Never
that's-
pass up
that's
an opportunity
stay- yeah.
to tell someone you love them. By the way, I love all you guys
Mm-hmm.
a lot. That's why you're here. All right, are we ready?
I'm cheating. I'm looking over his shoulder.
Don't be fishing in the hut.
Yes, I will.
What are?
We aren't going to touch those till we get desperate.
Oh, okay. Those are for just.
We all set?
Okay.
Okay, next question. How many times did you get up last night to pee?
Oh! That's a good
Not
one.
fair.
Biological
Not fair.
inquiry.
Why?
Yeah.
Not fair.
I'm a 5
unfair.
Well, we all live here, so we all are of an age.
Too much. Too many times.
So, yeah, more than I can count.
I'll come clean. 3.
Oh, you can count them?
3 on
Oh,
a
my
regular night.
stars.
3 normal.
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
3 normal.
I'm like 5, and yeah, I
5,
count
yeah.
them because I'm like, Jesus, I hope this is like over pretty. Yeah, but I go back to sleep really fast though too.
That's what I used to do until.
I don't want to jinx it, but that hasn't hit me yet.
Oh, you
Oh,
lucky
you
boy!
lucky guy.
Okay, me
Oh,
neither.
back-
Oh, God.
It's what you have to look forward to,
Yeah,
honey.
something
But
to look forward to.
I hate when you get that little, you wake up to roll over the other side or something, and you get that slight twinge.
Yes.
Too many
Well, it's
dogs.
like, hey,
Hey,
How
come
you
on, let's
doing?
go.
are you
How you doing?
awake? You're awake now, right?
I'm awake.
It's only 15, 20 feet away. You can come right back to bed and go to sleep.
Oh.
No, I'm good.
You have that dialogue
No,
with
I
it briefly.
think
Yeah.
that's-
I don't want to.
Hey, I'm
I'll
still
make
here.
it. Yeah.
I'm still here. Hey.
That's because he only has to go 3 times a night. When it's 5 times a night, you're like, get up.
Yeah, but
come
I
back.
go. It takes me 20 minutes to go.
Right.
Yes, that's the other
20
bad
minutes.
thing.
No.
I
come
think the
on.
follow-up question to this, though, is
Yeah.
how long is your sleep cycle? Because
Right.
it's
Short.
Well, for the whole night. So if
Well,
you're sleeping for 8 hours and
yeah.
you're getting up 5 times,
Right.
Yeah.
that's a lot of getting up between
Yeah.
8
Yes.
hours.
Oh, I
It's
mean,
like-
I'm not
it's
going to
like
bed at 2
maybe
and getting up
2
at
hour
4.
stretch and then you get up. Then
But
another
if-
2 hours.
But if you don't go to bed till midnight and you get
Oh,
up
get to
at
bed at
4,
Yeah.
you can go that
I've
long.
solved the problem. Like
Yeah.
I wear a
Seven.
catheter to bed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
One time in the morning, empty the bag. I'm good.
Oh, good. No, that
A
is
lot of
something
work.
you have to look forward to, Joe. I hate to tell you, you might just, maybe your dad will give you a surprise and tie a bow around saying, here's what you can expect.
Yeah, I know
The
what
next
he
2 years
does. But both my sisters and brother, I think, already in their 60s are working through that.
See?
Which,
It's a bodily thing, which doesn't make you
Yeah.
And the fact that, I think they're definitely working on it, but how bad the VA was at treating so many of the people
Yeah.
that it served.
Oh.
And so, those are the kinds of things that if we're not made aware of,
Right.
we aren't going to necessarily vote on something that would improve that.
Right.
So I think it's an important question to ask. And because I have a heart for the vets, as you know, and when I went to try to do something with the American Legion group here, it was small enough. Most people don't join it so that they have this big, but they will do with the VFW.
Have you gotten any value from membership in the American Legion, VFW, or any other veterans group?
Yeah, and one of
Yeah.
the things, and I don't know that you've met him, but Renee was on one of the vets shows, and they have a support group that meets at Laguna Cafe. He's very active in the VFW in Mission Viejo. But the reason that what he does in that support group is invites any vet from any area, any time of service, and because they don't know the ropes. And that's one of the benefits, is the fact that if you don't know the benefits and how to go about getting them,
Right.
that's why they have that support group, to walk them through, because he said there's reams of paper and forms you have to fill out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And maybe
would
we
be
could
good.
broaden the question to any support groups that you affiliate with or aware
Right.
of that help you, with different things.
But that's a good point, like knowing how to manage through the,
Navigating the
Navigate.
bureaucracy.
Oh my, that's what
Yeah,
they do.
for
It
anything,
wasn't
not
the
just-
support for PTSD, which I thought it would be. It said, no, they have so many forms to go through to get any kind of, health benefits,
Yeah.
whatever, so they do that. But back to groups, I can't believe that there isn't a club or a group that hasn't got that in this village. There probably is, I just not am aware of it. But I know they have grieving groups, which is a good thing to do. I've not been to
Yeah.
them,
Yes.
but they are definitely needed because of the fact that we're the age we are and people are, we're losing friends, neighbors, husbands, wives, whatever.
Although to feather it over too, the musical groups are therapeutic. That's really making music and creating that room of energy is, the rest of the world disappears, and there's physical, mental, spiritual value, especially when she's belting it out.
Oh, yeah.
And I told actually, when
Yeah.
we interviewed, we talked about this, and when I was in the Pink Floyd band and I sang this song called Great Gig, which it has no words, and it's actually about death and dying, but it's just vocal sounds. And there was a show I did one time where at the end of the show, we would always talk to people in the audience, and this guy came up to me and he said, I'm a vet from Vietnam, and I lost all my buddies over there. And when I came back, I have not been able to talk about this to anybody. And he goes, I just hold it all inside. And he goes, and you started singing that song, and I don't know what you did, but it was as if you reached down inside my soul and pulled all that pain up and out of me. And I stood there bawling. He goes, I don't know what happened or how you did that. But he goes, it's the best therapy I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it was just so, I was shocked. And I didn't understand it either, but it touched him in such a way that it released all that pain that he had felt. At least that's what he said. And I felt so, in that moment, I felt like the biggest rock star in the world.
Yeah, but what is
But
interesting
it's-
about that is the fact that, we listen to songs and sometimes we're quiet enough to actually hear the words that touch us.
Yeah.
But the fact that there weren't any words,
Yeah.
it was the sounds.
It was
Yeah.
the
Right.
sound.
That
And
affected him.
it's amazing.
Wow.
Her rendition is amazing. Really.
Yeah.
It really is. I listened to it.
And that, one never knows what's going to touch
I
someone.
had no idea, that would have an
And I don't think we do as
No,
artists. We don't
no.
realize we're up there singing
Right,
Mustang
you're
Sally for
dancing,
the
you're
millionth
singing.
time.
Yeah.
And
You're doing your thing.
somebody's connecting to it.
Right,
Yeah.
you hope at least
Yeah.
that they're at least paying
And you-
attention.
Anybody remember Good Vibrations? I guess
Yeah.
that was
Right.
like,
Yes.
that I used to make my stomach like really like I felt that song.
I just saw Brian Wilson 2 weeks ago at the Irvine, the 5 Points Amphitheater.
Oh wow.
We've never been there. It's an amazing venue.
Yeah.
And it was so sad to see because he comes out on a
Yeah.
walker to his piano and he only sings maybe 10% of every
Right.
song. He's got
Oh, wow.
amazing backup vocalists who carry the song, but yeah, it's
I
pretty
just saw a
incredible.
documentary with him, but yeah, that song.
That's
was
the documentary I saw, or that movie, or whatever it's called, because I don't care for the Beach Boys. So once I heard that
I heard
documentary,
that they don't really care much for
They
you.
don't
either.
think much of you either.
yeah. But when I listened to that, it gave me greater appreciation because I know for sure then I was not a musician in any sense of the form, because all these very famous musicians, Elton John, et cetera, that said he was a genius, what he wrote and how they did the recordings and everything. So it was really helpful for me to appreciate, and his, I don't know what caused all of the mental problems, but the fact that geniuses do have sometimes issues with that. But the fact that he is so remembered, so like you said, going there and people paying tribute to him, even though he's been through hell and back as far as his own life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because, it's wild and crazy.
Well, it goes to your point. If you give when you're singing, if you give, if you're giving, then things will be given back. You give, things will come
Yeah.
back.
It's the quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Whether
It's
you're
all about
dancing
giving,
or
being willing
even
to
working-
give.
People working at a job, it doesn't matter what that work is. If you put your heart and soul into it, it comes back.
Yeah.
It's just the way the universe works. So.
Absolutely.
And that's the part that I'm hoping, I've seen another side of that in here, which is not comforting, is takers and not givers.
Yeah.
And it's like, at this age, you still only, what's in it for me? I mean, that's so sad and so tragic, because the giving part, you will get back more than you ever counted on. But if they've never been a giver and always been a taker, then life becomes pretty awful as you get older, because you kind of put yourself in a corner and there's nothing left there.
Yeah, it's never going to come out even, and to be
And
worried
especially-
about, is this pile bigger than this pile, and upset if it's not. But
Then you're not really truly giving.
Yeah.
If
yeah,
that's what you're
yeah, if you're
Yeah,
looking for a
and that's how
payback,
people
yeah.
think of it, is if I
Right.
give that, then what am I going to get? Well,
It's
that's
not
not
a
giving.
50-50 proposition.
No, it's not a quid pro quo.
No,
It's
it
just
is-
Totally
you
not.
just give because it feels good.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's why it feels good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When I get out there, if I have to sing or play or something, and maybe I got a song that I only practiced once, and so okay, we're gonna have a go at it, but then you gotta just give it,
Yeah.
give it all, and then let the chips fall, and
Yeah.
then usually it's always positive.
Yeah.
It'll always be positive.
In the realm of giving, I started something years and years and years ago with my kids. I'd actually go to like McDonald's or something, which of course was horrible to give them that kind of food. But,
Well, I don't know. I'm
That's
kind
where they
of
go by
partial to
choice
the
now.
burger. Don't tell
but
anybody.
occasionally, I would ask how much for the car behind me, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Dad, do you know those people?" I'm like, "No, just a random act of kindness."
Right.
And I've carried that through, and I do that here because I go to Coffee Bean, and I always pay for the car behind me, and I just tell them at the window, "Hey, just tell them if they feel it to pass it on."
Right.
I did this back in Redlands 20 years ago, and when I had a company there, and I had one of my employees had called me back and said, in the afternoon, he said, "Did you by chance, do that little coffee thing you do?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" It started with Starbucks. He said, "Well, when I got up there, because you must have been there around 6:30 in the morning. I got there about 9 o'clock, and the lady said, 'Oh my God, you're like the 54th car in a row that has paid for their car behind you.'" And I call it paying it backwards.
Yes.
And if there's someday I ever have enough money, I'd like to create an organization because it feels so good
Yeah.
if you
Yes.
can afford it.
Right.
Sure.
Well, and even if it's a cup of coffee, well, of course, in
Well,
Starbucks.
sometimes Coffee Bean or Starbucks
Yeah,
is $30.
yes, right.
Right.
But-
That's the thing, it doesn't, because if I ask, I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I've been stung a couple of times.
Right.
$28, really? Ugh.
But
Well, and
the beauty is that they don't know what you've done. They're not gonna.
No, because I like to do
Right.
it anonymously. I like to
Right.
drive away
Right.
and
They're not going to sit there and say, oh, I'll just have water, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and up in the Bay Area where I lived for 40 years, there's so many bridges and bridge tolls
oh, right.
that people will do that all the time. They'll pay for the car behind them, and so you come up ready with your money, and they're like, "No, that car got you." And
Wow.
they're already
Yeah,
Such a great
yeah.
feeling as the
Oh,
receiver,
it
Yeah,
is.
it's good.
but I think it's even a better feeling as
Right.
the giver in that
Right.
situation.
And I like to do it every, at the end of the year at the holiday time. I like to adopt several families, and then I find out something about them, and then I go on a shopping spree. And, you know, I try to fill their refrigerators full of food and, you know, every present under a Christmas tree. You know, not everybody is into that, but
Yeah.
I rally people together and go, hey, if you want to help me do this, you know, I'm adopting these families and they're in really desperate need.
Yeah.
That's
and
very
then
cool.
it's so fun to then drop it off at a place and they deliver it and then they send you pictures.
Oh,
of the kids,
yeah.
and the family's just a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, for me, it's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
Just
And
to
I
help
like
people in need.
I like the anonymity of that
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
to me it's you don't do it so that
Right.
people go, oh, you're such a nice guy.
Right.
You do it just to do it
Right.
and then being
And you know what?
anonymous.
That's-
I've done it at coffee at like Denny's before.
Yeah.
There'll be a couple over there like, hey, I want to pay for the
But
ticket.
you know
Don't tell
what's
them. And
interesting?
they're like looking around like,
Yeah.
Is that because we get such a good feeling from it, it almost makes you feel selfish because you do it because you know it's going to feel so good.
it does feel good.
Yeah, and it almost feels like, oh my God, I'm being selfish because I'm doing this because I'm going to feel so good afterwards.
It's okay to
It
be
is,
selfish.
but yeah, I mean,
feel
it's just
good.
that
Good kind
weird.
of selfish.
It's a
Yeah.
good
That's
kind of
okay.
selfish, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's
yeah.
a good kind of selfish.
Anyway,
for sure.
all right.
Am I
Jeff,
next?
you are
Okay.
next.
So,
Let's me dig into the hat here.
Yes.
How would you define a woman?
Ooh.
Is that the question?
That's the
That's
question.
good. Topical.
Wow.
Our
dangerous.
Supreme Court apparently doesn't know.
That's right. That's the dumbest question.
No, it's not.
Well, what is a woman to you?
Yeah, that's it. And
Well,
don't sing a
you know,
song. Don't sing a song now.
It's an impossible question. I mean, I can answer it in 1,000 ways.
But answer it
Well,
in
the-
your personal way.
What about the way that that means the most to you? Is it love? Is
Yeah, well, it would have to be my partner. That's the love. It would be love, certainly be love, and you say it's your other half. Everything's been written about that. That we're actually one thing that got divided, and we're just trying to get back together. I don't know how you define it, but a woman is the opposite of what I am physically. Mentally and emotionally, a lot of similarities, I guess. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this one because that's nothing but trouble. But,
So you're treading lightly, aren't you?
yeah, I'm ready to backpedal if necessary.
Well, I mean,
That's a hard question.
It is.
It's a hard question. How do you define a man? You say, well, I saw one on TV. You know,
well, I know how I define a man.
Well, I know how you would define it.
And I'm not afraid to say what I would. But for a woman, because I would think also from what I would have defined a man at when I was 18, 19 years old, and when I was 40, and now.
different
Stick
things.
to,
My
stick to the
goodness.
question.
That's
How
it,
would you
though.
define a woman?
Oh. A woman is created to, a woman is best expressed when she is as she was created, her purpose, which is, and of course, the most highest thing ever,
Stay at home barefoot
Is-
pregnant? No.
being a mother. Mother is the best
Nurturing
thing.
and caring.
Yes,
Nurturing,
Yeah.
caring. Those
right.
characteristics.
Because that's
That's your
it.
definition.
That's my
Well, that's a
definition.
dangerous definition.
It is
What
dangerous
about the
because
women who don't? have
You still
children?
nurture.
That's right, that's
and
right.
You
Not-
still nurture friends. There's a quality about women that has that quality, that mothering instinct, that caring, that nurturing, that looking out for, that.
But not in every woman.
No.
That's why it's a hard question.
It's a
That's why
general
it's a hard question.
Well, the
So-
easy answer is the clinical answer is it's XX versus XY.
Right.
It's black and white,
Right.
no gray area whatsoever. They can look at that and measure and know the chromosomes absolutely. But then with life,
Except that the chromosomes have been defined by science and men.
no, there's women scientists that
Well, but
look
I-
at the same data, but I agree. There's gray area with hormone changes and different things and different roles that you have to play. Sometimes a woman has to be also a man if it's a single household and right to have offspring isn't the only measure of a woman. That's one unique capability. But that whole I'm very pro freedom how somebody wants to live their life. If they want to wear whatever clothes they want to wear and talk however they want to talk, who am I to judge them?
Exactly.
And if I'm going to try and force them into some model, then I'm giving up my freedom. Like it's America.
That's a good point. Then you've given up your own freedom. I would agree
Yeah,
with
America's all about individual liberty, and we've lost that, of course,
God,
today.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm all for like whatever that person feels most comfortable with. I think we should respect it, as long as they're
agree
not,
with
you know, harming somebody else. But
I hear you.
Well, I mean,
I would say I have no definition, because to give, rather like what you're saying, to define what is a woman, to define it, puts parameters around it.
Right, immediately,
Limits
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden puts it in this, and then there's an expectation towards it. So I wouldn't even put in a definition,
how about you,
because
Jeff?
it doesn't matter.
Well, I think, I mean, you could go the biological definition and leave it at that, but I think there are so many different aspects and attributes to all humans. You know, the question wasn't really about how does a female identify as herself? How does she identify? Is she trans? Is she this? You know, today there's so many LGBTQ, XYZ, whatever we have. Yeah, LMNOP. There you go. I think that the biological definition is where you have to start. You know, I mean, a woman is a woman because she has a vagina. You know?
Why do you have to start there? Why? What do
Well, I mean, just that's the difference, the obvious difference between a man and a woman. So
They're built differently. They're
they're
wired
built differently, they're wired differently.
And
But
my
there's
question
so
was,
many other.
Why is that the starting place for you?
Well, I mean, it's one
That's
of the places,
procreation.
not necessarily the
That's where
starting
it
place,
starts.
but it's the one of the defining factors. You know, I mean, today in the political arena that we're involved in, you have people talking about men can get pregnant, and I'm like, sorry, but that's just not biologically possible. You don't have the equipment to get pregnant as a man. Well, you just don't.
That could change with technology.
Well,
You
that's
never
true.
know.
That's true. You never do know. But I just think it's an interesting question, because
already
I think
cloning
everybody has
people.
so many different definitions of what it is to be a woman. I think all of the things that you guys said are accurate and appropriate.
But the other thing too about if my definition of a woman is going to be totally different than yours.
Absolutely.
So a male and a female are going to identify the
Absolutely.
woman differently.
Yeah.
And again, what my definition would have been 20 years ago compared to now is going to be totally different. But if you were, you know, saying what is a woman, you know, then is it, to me, in your mind would be like, well, if I were looking for a woman, here's what I would look for. So therefore you would have in mind what it is you think a woman is. So if you're looking for someone that's warm and kind and nurturing and loving and whatever.
Get a dog.
But that
Yeah.
that could
Way
be,
to
that
go.
could be any gender.
That could be.
Yes, but again, back to
'Cause
the
I'm
fact
warm
that
and kind and
when
gentle and all
you're
those
right,
things.
but when you're looking for, if I were to say I'm looking
No,
for a man,
the question was, how would
you
you
just
define?
define
Sherry?
instead of describe. Yeah.
You haven't spoken.
Well, you know, I think the challenge with that question is that in this day and age, because of biological flexibility and emotional flexibility, that definition, those lines are very blurred. And I mean, you can look at somebody and think you know that that's a woman, but what you may or may not know is whether they've had gender reassignment surgeries, and
Funny you should say that.
on it goes, right? And so I am to the point, and maybe this is because I was at UC Berkeley also for 38 years of my career, my daytime job. I have given up, if you will, trying to decide if a person is a woman or a man or whatever they are. And I'm to the point where I don't even care.
Right.
It just doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I care more about what kind of morals this person
Character.
has, what kind of character they have. The rest of it, their gender identity or the way they look or the way they dress, I could care less.
But I'll tell you, yesterday I was at the doctor's office, and I'm sitting there, and across from me waiting, a lovely lady, big girl, large, very attractive blonde hair. And I was coming out and I was signing out, and then the nurse came out and said, Roberta, doctor, see you now. Okay, I'll be right there. Seriously.
Oh,
She stood
my.
up.
Yeah.
She stood up. I couldn't, if she wasn't reassigned, she certainly had, so you don't know. You just can't, there's no way to define those kind of things anymore.
But there, well,
I mean,
Well,
everything's in
I know.
flux now, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
and so,
I think it is black and white that a woman can produce offspring and men can't, or we make a small contribution to that effort. But some societies are, they kill people in Iran, Saudi Arabia. All these woke companies and stuff over here that have the messaging of everybody can be everything.
Everybody can be anything.
They don't say that over in those countries
No.
where
well, in China, they were leaving little girls by the side of the road.
yeah.
That's how devalued they were.
Right.
We have population controls.
So as soon as you label something,
Right.
that's when there's trouble.
Right,
That's my belief.
yeah.
You put a label on anything, and then that's when this trouble starts.
okay, next. I'll do one, and then we're gonna take a break.
It's a tough subject.
And, well, I mean, we didn't say this was gonna be easy.
Yeah, that was
Greg.
tough, yeah, that was.
Some of these might be easier
Hoping
than
this is
others.
We
softball.
might need to adapt my questions if that's. Another
Well,
vet
this
one.
is one of those, and I think we should talk about it.
How did you like boot camp?
What would you tell a young person who is considering serving in the U.S. military today?
Oh, no,
Oh,
that's
okay,
cool.
that's a good
That's a
scenario.
very good one.
That's a good one. Well, I can tell you this. Some of the best musicians I have ever played with throughout my career were in military bands.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm.
So, and they, they were amazing people. They were just brilliant musicians, and they had the benefit, if you will, of what we talked about earlier with some of the veterans benefits and things like that. And so for me, I was like, hey, if whether you want to be a musician or not, if going into the military is something you believe in that will benefit you both short-term, long-term, and some people come at it because their family was patriotic, they served in the military and so on, I say go for it.
I think that, I think it should be mandatory that children young adults high school to me, I think is a complete and absolute waste of time. Unless it's some sort of school,
ROTC.
like becoming a plumber, some sort of school that they can use. I think that there should be mandatory that you serve in the military for at least 2 years for the disciplinary aspect of it and for the benefits that you gain just out of the respect for your country and that type of thing. I think it's a really good thing. I think they should go.
But what do you think about women who have terrible experiences in the military?
No, we're not, well, I'm not
Right.
talking about.
No, but I'm saying if you're all required to serve,
Well-
there's an impact in that.
That's
But
correct.
We've
And,
never,
I was gonna ask the
we
same
went back to
thing.
the draft, if you would, where, when I was.
I don't think the draft is a good thing.
No,
just
but I think that it should be a
mandatory.
requirement, though.
Yeah, 2 years.
And that's what they did, but it wasn't females. It was
Right.
males
Just males,
that
right.
went 2 years to serve, and some of them stayed in longer. But and they had the benefit of when they got out the GI Bill, et cetera, et cetera,
Sure,
et cetera.
sure, sure.
But
But some
no,
of them
the Israelis, the men and women,
Yeah, oh yeah.
obligatory, 2 years.
2 years mandatory.
Everybody goes in.
Exactly.
Mandatory. And there's nothing wrong with that,
perfectly-
but it's
perfectly
something they've
good.
always done. It would take, again, if we go back to say everybody's gotta go, now it would be every female and male that's going, every
Sure.
trans,
But
every.
Sherry makes a good point, that then the system itself has to
Yeah.
upgrade itself.
Well, that's
Big,
like
right.
saying though, bad police officers that treat people badly when they pull them over. You're always going to have the bad apples and stuff. But
And bad gets the press.
yeah,
The bad people get the
Yeah.
press,
Always.
and you never hear the rest of it.
you never hear the good stuff. But I wish, looking back now that I'm 65, I look at guys like Joe who spent 30 years in the Navy, and I applaud that and respect that immensely. And I'm a lot more patriotic about my country now than I ever was when I was 18, 19, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we got into a lot of stupid wars back then
Yeah.
that we never should have been in. But
Yeah.
I look back at my life and I wish I would have served 20 years or whatever because of the benefits and just the base of your life that you have set. You have a foundation that I think is a really good one to go.
As I look back on it, I do feel like because I had a deferment in college, and I had a low draft number. I was going to be number 3. I was ready to go, and then just by chance, they went to the volunteer army a month or so before I got out of college. So I feel I look back on that, and I feel like I missed something. I do feel like I missed an experience I wish I'd had. I can't describe it any more than that, but I feel like there was a loss there of some kind.
Well, the thing that, I'm sorry, the thing that when I've talked to vets, the thing that is so invaluable is the brotherhood that they form in being in combat. You told me that when you were on the Navy ship, there were 500 people on that ship of all different cultures, and that you learned that you all had each other's back. So it didn't matter what color or flavor they were, you were all prepared to die for the other. That kind of, that to me,
Camaraderie is
It's-
unique.
it is.
Whoa, I didn't know that there was death involved.
oh shush.
Let me change it. Can we cut that?
And actually, I would differ a little. Like things worked out for me. I'm glad I had the life path that I did to date in general. But for younger people, like the skill of working together and being a team, problem solving, covering each other's back, you can get that camaraderie and sense of satisfaction in other means. That if you're not up for being in the military, but you have to force it on people, they can do more harm on a ship or someplace else if they really don't want to be there. If you're forcing them to be there, saying, "Hey, you got to do this." Yeah, I kind of like, in general, there's pros and cons to all, but being an all volunteer service now, you kind of weed out the ones that aren't committed to it. They got to already say, "Yeah, I want to sign up for that." Which that's a big filter.
It filters
right
out the
there.
mountain.
I have a question. I have a question because this was going through my mind while everybody was talking. My question is, do you think signing up for the military or being obligated to sign up as a country, that it would change any of the violent gun activity that we've been seeing all over the place and all of these horrible, horrendous shooting them up, all of our kids in schools? Do you think if we train people actually and then check their psyche on how to deal with guns?
You're raising killers. Although I'm biased, but
No, I'm not saying we're raising killers. I'm saying, would it improve?
Would it reduce that?
Would it reduce
They'd be
that?
better shots.
Yes. No, I
no.
don't.
And actually, I put a lot more in the military. You have weapons discipline.
Right.
You use deadly force only if deadly force is used on you. That
Right.
you get a skill to use that effectively. I put way more blame on Hollywood. These Hollywood that tells us, and they're mostly confiscate the weapons, but they make these movies that are nothing but shoot 'em up, and stimulate these primal tribal type of things, and the video games where they're killing people for 17 hours. I'd start with those two.
Yeah. Well, and
sources
they're at that young,
before
impressionable
military.
age where their testosterone is feeding onto that violence.
So then why do we hand some 18-year-old a gun, but we won't let them have a drink?
I agree.
Why do
Well,
they,
that's a
they
good
can't
point. And
smoke
it's
a
true in the
cigarette
military.
until
You
they're
can't
totally
carry. You
safe?
cannot walk around on the base with your weapon. You can't. You
Right.
have to check it. You got to keep it here.
So that's
You
what I'm
can't just
wondering,
carry it
if it would
around with you.
develop better
But in the
skills.
society, you can walk. You can hand a kid an AR, and he goes up and down the street. So there's a real disparity about how the discipline of the military treats weapons, and the way out here in
And
the
then
way in the
learning that
culture.
instead of learning from, let's say, parents and film, that they can just,
No,
like
but
you say,
that's
walk
again-
around like
Well,
they're,
Bill Maher
it's
made a
high
good
noon.
point about what you said a couple weeks ago in his editorial about Hollywood. That on the one hand they said, "Oh, this is so we've got to ban the guns and this and that and all that, all that virtue sharing that they do all the time." And they're all in here. They're so good, and they want to get
Right.
rid of guns, and they want to bless their hearts. They're all hugely
But if you
successful
ban the
millionaires.
guns, then
But-
only criminals will have guns.
Well, that's not the point I'm making. It's just that Hollywood then goes on and then makes every movie you see there's a vengeful. It's all about a guy with a gun getting vengeance and doing the right thing and killing 900 people.
But-
and and how many movies he had a list. He had a list of movies he read off this long.
Yeah.
They were all about the same thing.
Yeah.
So he was pointing out the hypocrisy between the expression.
in Hollywood
you know.
versus the films.
Who, by the
During
way,
the
are
money they
surrounded
make.
by armed guards whenever they go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the
But
other
these
thing.
people who are shooting, these people in films that you're talking about, that you all are talking about, that are like vengeful and shooting up. They're also like the heroes.
That's what I'm saying. They're making,
Yeah.
they're
Right.
making
So
it heroic.
therefore these-
Yes.
They're making that idea
Young-
heroic. Yeah, that's the
young-
point.
So okay, so
Men
Yeah,
that
that's
are on
the-
testosterone.
to the-
That's
Yeah,
what
that's the
it is.
hypocrisy of
It
it. They make all
feeds.
these guys as heroes, and then they turn around and at the award ceremony goes, the guns are so bad.
Yeah,
it's-
and they just made
we
their
want to
fortune
do
off
this
that.
and that.
But the one thing that you were saying about you wouldn't have to go into the military to do that. The thing that we don't have, I mean, you said it could be happening at, you could get this brotherhood somewhere else.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
through sports,
But,
through
but,
working
bottom
plans.
line is that if you don't have discipline, you will not have brotherhood. And in the military, you have to have discipline. You cannot have chaos. So if you had a company, if you had a sporting event, if there's no discipline there, you will not have success. We have given up discipline.
yeah.
And that's the problem where we have people going off. Parents don't discipline their children, so therefore they buy guns and go do these horrific things. And we blame society on a parent not doing its job. You know, if we got to go back and retrain, and we got to go back and say, if you have a kid, you're responsible for them until they leave home. Every action they have, you're going to have to back it up. We don't do that. You know, everybody else is guilty, and not the parents. There's
Well, I
a,
found that true too.
Back
that
in
idea, too,
Minnesota-
that everybody wants to be their kids. The generation that I grew up in, my sisters, and I don't have any biological kids. I got some stepkids, and my sisters, they all raised their kids as friends instead of being
oh my
parents.
star.
Instead of being their parents, they want
Yeah.
to be their friend. They're all like it. So the kids are all like, there is no discipline in them.
Right.
They've already been accepted into the adult world,
Yeah.
and they're not adults by any standard.
Well,
No.
here's
So
a
it's-
little piece of irony. So I think I was probably 10 and my younger sister was 8. And out of the blue, for no apparent reason, my father one day sat us both down and he says, all right, so we've taught you kids, you know, what's right and what's wrong. He goes, so when you go out of that house, this house every day to play or go to school or whatever you do, he said, you get to make these decisions yourself. He says, now if you make good decisions, which we think you should know what those are by now, because you know the difference between right and wrong, then you make a good decision, you benefit from that. You make a bad decision, we're not going to jail for you, you're going to jail. So, and then he put his hand out and he shook our little hand and he goes, good luck out there. And I mean, it's like, so, you know, it was like we walked out the door and looked left and we looked right.
That's
Like,
great.
we have a lot of responsibility here now.
Yes.
But it was something that the
Stuck
way
with you, obviously.
well, it did because
There's
it
the
was-
value your dad you were talking about earlier.
Yes, he had this way of just putting it out there so he'd make your little head think.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, I better watch myself,
Right.
you know.
But there you had morals and values at a young age.
Already, but at the same time, you know, he didn't just walk. Oh, there was one last piece he said. I forgot this part. He goes, but if you guys ever have questions because you're not sure what decision to make, your mom and I are here to. You can come and talk to us and you know check it out. We'll tell you what we think.
Oh,
He didn't
good.
tell us. He didn't say I'll tell you what to
To
do.
do, he said,
He said I'll
well,
tell you what we think.
yeah,
And so there was something about that is like they weren't giving up on us.
no,
But at the same
But
time they were
freedom.
saying, good luck out there.
freedom.